All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Angelica Benitez, and my social impact project is called Pathfinders. We go to the next slide. So a little bit about me. I'm a first-gen low-income high school junior who goes to camp, and I'm from Compton, California. Most of my free time is spent supporting my parents' family business, easy party rentals, and any other time in exploring computer science. The next slide. So since 5, my parents have their business, and my every single weekend has been spent taking chairs, tents, blowing up balloons. But this has been my normal, and this has been the only career exposure that I have gotten. And so because of this, and because of growing up in an environment where the only careers available to me were of low pay, were in the service industry, it allowed me to put myself down and limit myself to these careers. And it wasn't until I was connected to mentors that I was uplifted and shown that I could do so much more. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that I'm not the only person with this issue. This is not just my story. 56% of high schoolers never have mentors. 4 in 10 never explore career paths. 75% of high school graduates aren't sure what to do with these big life decisions. So the consensus here, if we go to the next slide, is that high school students lack career exposure. Because of this, we don't know the career paths available to us, and so we tend to look to the careers that we've grown up around. And this allows cycles of poverty, of low social mobility, of low higher rates of education to continue. And it keeps us from being ambitious. And so my solution, if we go to our next slide, was to host career panels. What would career panels do? Career panels bring in professionals from different fields to show these students they can do so much with their lives. They have so many options to them, making the virtual means I increase accessibility to any student who could come by leading them myself. I could ask the hard-hitting questions that teens my age really want to know. And by selecting these panelists all also from these underrepresented backgrounds, like low income, they were first-gen too, they're people of color. I can represent these attendees in these higher professional spaces. We go to our next slide. I was able to do this by securing panelists, formatting these panels, and advertising. So if we go to our next slide, you'll see how I secured panelists. Over the course of the summer, I was able to connect with 12 amazing and inspiring panelists who volunteered their time to be a part of these panels. And I was able to do this by leveraging any connection that I had. I emailed program coaches, I asked the CDG staff, I asked mentors, and they continually connected me to panelists. And so thus, I was able to host little sessions with them, 30-minute sessions where I got to get to know these panelists one-on-one, understand their story, understand their spark, understand their motivation. And these panelists were in 10 diverse careers that I myself had little to no knowledge of prior. So if we go to our next slide, in formatting panels, I customized these panel questions depending on the sparks, depending on what I learned from these panelists. If they had a swift career change, maybe I wanted to focus in on that and hone in on that. And in leading panels myself, I make sure to be engaging. I make sure to invite attendees to ask any questions that they had. And in order to calculate the effectiveness of my panels, I made pre and post surveys just to understand what did my attendees know about before and after attending my panel. So next slide. And obviously, what I was getting attendees to come, in order to advertise, I made everything visually cohesive with our signature Pathfinders colors and my signature logo, which you can see here. And I put them all on the platforms that the attendees, my target audience, underserved high schoolers, are most likely on, which would be TikTok and Instagram. And I made it easy to register through with a simple QR code. And if you go to our next slide, obviously this came with, here's my little overview of the panels. You'll see I was able to host 4 one-hour panels, all with amazing panelists from diverse careers and all very inspiring. So if you go to our next slide, you'll see that obviously this came with challenges. Initially, I really struggled to find panelists. How would I, as a little high schooler, be able to connect with these industry professionals? And it came down to not being afraid of hearing the word no and just sending messages, countless emails, messages, just asking, showing my goals. And eventually I was able to connect with professionals who then connected me with more professionals. And thus I was able to find 12 amazing panelists and engaging with panels and attendees, because going in, my biggest fear of public speaking, I used my one-on-one panelist meeting, this practice to get comfortable being a leader, to get comfortable delving deep into discussion. And in obtaining attendees, it turns out most high schoolers prefer not to spend their summers watching educational workshops, but I knew this as motivation. I posted frequently on Instagram, on TikTok. I announced it to my community. I individually sent messages to people. I even put up flyers at my own school just to spread the word. And if we go to our next slide, you'll see the impact I was able to make. Here's an actual workshop photo. And we go to our next slide. In my survey that I collected, I was able to find that I connected 20 amazing students with these panels, and I was able to bring motivation to them. And I was able to find that only 34% of the students that had attended my panels were familiar with these careers prior to attendance. And if you just go to our next slide, that this number jumped by about 40 in after just 1 hour of panel information, this became 82% of students feeling familiar with careers after my panels, with 95% of them agreeing that my panels were very informative. And if you go to our next slide, you'll see just a few testimonials from these amazing students. You'll see some of them noting specific panelists, like UX designers, some noting the advice that they got that they could use, some noting that they felt represented because the panelists came from backgrounds just like them. And that one was especially heartwarming for me to see because it was my biggest motivation in going into this. And so if we go direct ourselves to our next slide. What did I learn? I learned how to effectively interact with professionals, with these volunteers. Volunteering that time, I had to be very concise, very direct, but also very kind and professional and utilize their voices. In fostering engaging panel discussions, I kept track of time, I directed discussions, I predicted what would happen next. Marketing and visual design, I learned how to utilize online art tools such as Canva in order to make things visually appealing in order to attract and continue to bring in more attendees. And in data collection and analysis, I was a little bit of a data scientist, using my big spreadsheets and condensing them into the small consumable number that you all saw in my impact slide. But the biggest change that I saw, biggest learning point, was the career path that I myself learned about. After learning about all these panelists, I can say, I want to be a software engineer, which is a career that I featured, and eventually, like Anwar, I want to be a technical product manager once I get more experience. And I hope that I can continue to bring this change myself to more students. If you go to our next slide. Thank you.
Well, Angelica, phenomenal presentation. I think I can speak amongst everyone. You will become an amazing software engineer and technical product manager. And what a fantastic presentation. I'll open it up to any of our panelists if you have any questions for Angelica.
I have a question, but before that, Angelica, well done. I can't tell that you are afraid of public speaking. You clearly have overcome that, or, at least try to, I think there's a lot of things that I've learned over the years, but one of the things I've learned is that the public speaking nerves and then excitement are actually very similar. So I feel like you're very excited about this project. One question I have, and congratulations around the 95% of all the people who attended find that your session was so informative. That's amazing result. So I love the fact that you're also very data informed, and you use data to help you, make decisions. One of the questions I have is, knowing what you know now, and you've learned a lot of things, do you feel like you would do anything differently?
Oh yeah, so definitely, and trying to bring in students, I think I would make them on different days, because I kind of consistently made them on similar type of days, weekends. I would also start planning social media posts and advertising much early on, as I was unable to do that because of my struggles with finding panelists initially.
Thank you.
So in a similar vein, I had a question. So you mentioned that your survey said that 82% of the students became familiar with these types of careers after these sessions. What do you feel like was the reason for the 18%, or why do you think 18% didn't feel informed, or what do you think could have done differently to get that up to like 100%?
I think it's because as our panels go on, my sessions kind of turned into more of like inspirational talks, and they turned into more motivation to keep the students uplifted rather than focusing on technical skills. And I think even with that change, it was even more impactful because it got students excited about their professional career journeys. But I think that's where that 18% worked.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to agree with Angelica. A great job here, great effort, and a great presentation put together. Just in thinking further on next steps, like how would you keep up with this information, and how would you continue to have this dialogue and engagement? Would you keep giving that actually help shape careers as a result of this?
Yeah, so definitely in the kind of like online impact, I could record panel sessions and kind of put them in a database for more people to see. But in other way that I thought of was to increase like personal connection, because human connection and in-person events tend to have bigger impacts, would be to have these in-person virtual career panels, or even maybe contact somebody from like a big company to be able to tour, bring in students and have them tour these big companies to just get more motivated and get more, hear more from different professions.
Yeah.
Hey, Angelica, it is so exciting to see your energy and how exciting this is for you. I can tell that not only did you enjoy your impact project, but that it changed your life, it feels like, and that you're excited that it changed the life of others. Do you have any goals of doing anything post this project to continue it on, or are you sharing your information with others, maybe counselors at school or whoever it may be, to continue on with this energy through the students in your school?
Yeah, so definitely in terms of continue on, if I were to add on, I think it would be turned into kind of like a bit of a long-term mentorship program where I could bring in students and maybe connect them with some of the panelists so they can continue on this connection and maybe just like individually make sure that a student is on track for career success. And also virtually, I could build up better online meetings and host more sessions and increasing my network with panelists.
It's awesome. It's a great project.